Good morning. I'm going to get started. This is the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole regarding bills number 180, 162, 180, 163, 180, 164, and resolutions number 180, 185. Mr. McDermott, please read the titles of the bills and resolutions.
Bill number 180-162, an ordinance to adopt a capital program for the 6 fiscal years 2019 to 2024 inclusive. Bill number 180-163, an ordinance to adopt a fiscal 2019 capital budget. Bill number 180-164, an ordinance adopting the operating budget for fiscal year 2019. Resolution 180-185, resolution providing for the approval by the Council of the City of Philadelphia, a revised 5-year financial plan for the City of Philadelphia, covering fiscal years 2019 through 2023 and incorporating proposed changes with respect to fiscal year 2018, which is to be submitted to the mayor to the Pennsylvania Intergovernmental Cooperation Authority, pursuant to the Intergovernmental Cooperation Agreement authorized by an ordinance of this council, approved by the mayor on January 3rd, 1992, by and between the city and the authority.
Thank you, Mr. McDermott. Today we continue the public hearing of the Committee of the Whole to consider the bills read by the clerk that constitute proposed operating and capital spending measures for fiscal 2019, a capital program, and a forward-looking capital plan for fiscal 2019 through fiscal 2024. Today we will hear testimony from the following city departments: Free Library, Mural Arts, and City Representative. First person to testify for the administration is it's your big moment, sir. Come on.
Siobhan Reardon, Free Library.
Thank you, sir. Morning.
Good morning, Councilman. Good morning. I am joined this morning by the Chair of the Board of Trustees of the Free Library of Philadelphia, Judge Pamela Denby, and we both have testimony, so we'll begin with Judge Denby first.
Thank you.
Well, good morning.
And
I want to especially thank all of you showing up to have this special meeting so that you could congratulate myself and Siobhan, who are both brand new grandmothers.
All right, awesome. Awesome.
Which brings out
Just state your name for the record.
Pamela Denby, that this is all about the children. The library is all about the children. And I think congratulations go out to everybody in this room, the library, the schools, council, the mayor's office, because finally, with everybody rowing in the same direction, the third grade reading scores have gone up very significantly this past year. We're on the right road, and if we finish doing that, and the library is very central to that, as I'm going to tell you in a couple of minutes, that I think is going to be our salvation. Alrighty, this past year, the library is really proud of the fact that we finished renovating pretty much on time and opened 4 of the branches that had been closed for a long time. Major renovations. They're now state-of-the-art in their functionality and services. The neighborhoods have embraced them. The people are coming out. The number of people who show up at each branch is way, way up and is staying high. Just to remind you which ones they are, since you were active in helping to make this happen. There's Lillian Marrero at 6th and Lehigh. It now boasts the largest Spanish language collection in the free library system because it has an immigrant-rich population. The Logan Library has new spaces and programs designed to build literacy across generations, including an exciting astronomy program with Derek Pitts, the guy who on NPR and the like does astronomy. Franklin, yeah. The Lovett Memorial in Mount Airy is drawing a broad range of users. It's a real center of community activity, and it's got a covered reading porch for everything from story times to English as a second language groups. And last, there's the Taccone Library, which is in a re-emerging commercial corridor in the Northeast, and now shares spaces with the area's Community Development Corporation, so it's a real focus for small businesses to give them access to all kinds of information. If you haven't had a chance to go to any of these, take a minute and just pop your heads in. They are just marvelous. And to get back to what I started with, of real significance is our work with children. Building Bridges with Books and BLAST are two of the partnerships we've built with the school district. And these are building vital skills, and they're forging relationships between librarians and teachers. And these projects are undergirded by the wide-ranging partnerships and collaborations created and sustained by the Read by Fourth program, whose primary focus is to increase the number of students reading at grade level. And you have to understand, for that, we're reaching parents at the point where they have infants. We're not waiting until they get to first or second or third grade. It's about reaching parents at the very beginning to build the skills for literacy. We're also proud to continue building our services to the incarcerated and their families and other people affected by the criminal justice system. And we're going to expand that program with the Department of Prisons and bring some of our author series to the prisons. And we're also going to launch a pilot program to get library cards into the hands of citizens who are leaving the prison system, so that they feel welcome to come to the library, which is where they can work on literacy and work on job hunting. So these are just a few of the ways we've been moving forward and offering really broad services, but particularly focused on the children. Thank you.
So, good morning again. My name is Siobhan Reardon. I'm President and Director of the Free Library of Philadelphia. And in addition to being joined by Judge Denby, I'm also joined by Toby Dichter, who's the Chair of the Free Library of Philadelphia Foundation, as well as quite a number of other board members that I have. And also, look at all the friends that have joined us from the various neighborhood libraries around the system. And we are thrilled to have them with us again today, as well as my senior staff. So the mission of the Free Library of Philadelphia is to advance literacy, guide learning, and inspire curiosity. And with that, FY19, our fiscal 19, promises to be an exciting and productive year for the Free Library as we embark on a refreshed strategic plan focused on building a culture of literacy throughout Philadelphia, delivering an exceptional customer experience, and embracing creativity and innovation. These three pillars or goals will be achieved by a detailed work plan driven by metrics and evaluation. In recent years, we've moved toward being a more data-driven organization, but this refreshed plan gives us the opportunity to make strategic decisions based on outcomes and to better measure our success. Additionally, achieving our mission and vision is only possible if we make a concerted effort to move beyond the four walls of our library buildings and grow sustained outreach efforts throughout our communities. Of paramount importance is the library's contribution to improving literacy rate and access to literacy services for all Philadelphians. In the coming year, we will begin an evaluation of our out-of-school time offerings to ensure that they are both effective and best serving the needs of our children. This work cannot be accomplished without the rich, thriving partnerships established throughout the Read by Fourth campaign and via our expert librarians and other library staff across the city who are deeply committed to children's literacy and who work with children each day in our LEAP and summer reading programs. Services for adults are also included in our drive to build a culture of literacy in Philadelphia. We traditionally think of literacy as the ability to read and write, but providing pathways to jobs, excellent programming, and healthier lives requires computer literacy, civic literacy, financial literacy, and nutrition literacy, to name a few. In the coming year, the library will expand its capacity to develop support and grow these important literacies for adults. As I mentioned, we cannot achieve our mission unless we move toward being a more outwardly facing organization that provides excellent customer service based on the unique needs of communities in each of our 9 geographically grouped clusters. Keeping this in mind, we aim to implement comprehensive training and professional development for every single staff member of the Free Library with a keen eye toward diversity and inclusion. A key piece of this effort is the launch of a grant program that will train 300 staff members on community outreach and engagement and leadership. We're also thrilled to welcome our customers into newly renovated accessible spaces, as Judge Denby just mentioned, with state-of-the-art technology, which could not have been possible without the support of our council members. All 4 libraries are thriving, and we are proud to have recently drawn additional support at the state level for the next round of upgrades to our Overbrook Park and Pascalville libraries. In addition, we look forward to being key players in the Rebuild Initiative and launching projects that will bring much-needed improvements to our often and older 100-year-old buildings. Finally, we can't deliver excellent customer experiences without partnerships and programming that will engage the public. This past year, the launch of the Center for Public Life, a conceptual unit which will focus on providing the most enriching cultural and civic programs in every corner of the city. Our dynamic event series will expand its reach into the neighborhood libraries and to Philadelphia Department of Prisons. We'll cull stories from both longtime and brand new Philadelphians and share them widely in the name of inclusion. We'll capitalize on all of the efforts of the city's new Poet Laureate program, now within the walls of the Free Library, by building a writer and artist in residence programs to interact with our world-class collections. A particular passion of mine over my nearly 10-year tenure with the Free Library is identifying ever new ways to push our institution forward with creative, innovative thinking, and this will continue to be a key part of our work in the coming year. We've found that encouraging our staff to experiment and explore leads to breakthroughs in service delivery that never would happen if we did all of our thinking around a boardroom table. In order to capitalize on this, our refreshed strategic plan will embolden staff at all levels of the organization to devise collaborations, creative solutions, and improved means of communications that lead to new opportunities. We'll establish a futures team that marks national and international trends that could affect a library work. Each cluster will have the opportunity to learn design thinking and brainstorming techniques that will foster new, bold ways of delivering great library service. And our hatching innovation pool will nurture great ideas like the instrument lending library and the Philly Bop dance classes for seniors that came through this effort over the last couple of years. As you can see, we are enthusiastic about moving forward with this refreshed version of our strategic plan and are still deeply committed to the mission of advancing literacy, guiding learning, and inspiring curiosity for all citizens of Philadelphia. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share these aspirations, and we would not be able to accomplish them without the support and efforts of our City Council and our City Council members. We look forward to working with you in the coming year as effectively as we have in the past.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Just had a couple of quick questions. In your budget detail, section 30 on page 4, you indicate there's 640,000, basically 641 increase in grants revenue fund meant to provide appropriation power for potential increases from the state. Do you have any information about the status of the state grant for the upcoming fiscal year?
So the Free Library does get nearly $8 million or so from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and that I'm assuming that I'd have to look at the detail, but I believe that number is the portion that we use to subsidize our entire library program. So in addition to the money that comes in from the city, we supplement that with the additional appropriation from the Commonwealth. So it's not additional it's not new money. It's money that has been in the budget and carried over.
Budgeted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Always looking for more money.
So are we.
Shocking.
Yeah. Right. In your testimony, you highlight you have 29 vacancies in your department. Mm-hmm. That's in your testimony. Could you detail your department's plan for decreasing the number of vacancies?
So we are currently in the process of hiring. We have currently 12 vacancies at our branch supervisor level, so we're currently interviewing to fill those positions and then backfill at the Library 1 level once we fill the library supervisor positions. And so, you know, it's all about how it is you fill the management positions and then backfill with the incoming positions, and so that's the work we're doing now. Our library LA positions are often are a position that we're constantly always sort of breathing deeply about keeping those positions filled as well, and so it's just a constant movement of staff. But
is there a difficulty?
So I would
I
say,
mean, we've had some departments say that they've had challenges in filling certain positions, particularly specialized, and I don't know if you have any
well, sure. It's all according to the timing of the exams, and so you would love to see the exams happen more often so that we can keep filling the roster of positions, so that as we go through trying to fill 12 supervising librarian positions, do we constantly have the right, are the exams refreshed enough so that we're constantly ready to interview and fill the positions as they come forward. But so there is that delay between the time the exam is issued and the time we finally have a list. It seems to be an awfully long period of time.
All right. Let me ask you this in terms of technology. Technology has changed a lot of things. Most people, fortunately, unfortunately, depending on your perspective, they talk to Siri and they Google, Alexa, and all of that stuff, as opposed to the old days when you'd actually go to the library and kind of look things up. Has your strategy in libraries adjusted to the increase in technology-based learning process? I mean, what have you done to evolve?
So we have. So, I'm 30 years in libraries now, and I could tell you it's a complete shift, a paradigm shift in the way we do our work. So it's faster, quicker, smarter kind of information delivery that we have. So technology is a great asset insofar as we can get at information for our constituents fairly quickly. We still have the need for the tactile material, just because, and that is because you have to have different tools for different learning skill sets. And so, but yes, I think the Free Library of Philadelphia does a pretty great job, actually, of staying ahead of the technology trends, trying to introduce that technology as it's coming on board. We actually have, I'm forgetting the name of it, but we have a number of staff. In addition to this, we added a new title called a Digital Resource Specialist, which is in quite a number of our libraries. And so as people come and become more comfortable, or the goal of the DRS, the Digital Resource Specialist, is to ensure that our constituents are comfortable with the technology. So when they're searching, they're actually searching for the right types of information versus, as you know, the first 10, when you key in a search term, the first 10 sites are usually an advertisement for what pharma or some sort of organization, and you really have to get past that and really get into the better types of information. So that's been a major piece of librarianship, is to really make sure that the sort of typical bibliographic work we do is web-based as well, so that we're trying to identify the best sites for people to get at the kind of information they're looking for. So the answer is yes. It's just the nature of our work that we have to stay ahead of the trends. But the other thing, so I was saying the DRSs, and then we regularly host at the Central Library, as well as in the neighborhood libraries, sessions for people who don't know how to use their gadgets. So we have an e-gadget help desk, and so for our constituents that need support in that area, we're supporting them in learning how to use their devices more effectively.
Okay. And my last question for this round. I visited the Widener branch a couple of weeks ago for a tax foreclosure diversion program meeting. And I noticed as I walked in, I smelled some food. Right?
Food in the library, oh my God.
What's going on in here? Am I at the right place? So I went to the room on the side, and there was a lady there cooking.
Yes.
And had some young people and their parents in the room.
Yes.
And I was like, what's going on here? So apparently you all are involved in some sort of a program.
Yes.
Where you teach young people how to cook?
Well, I
have some older people I'd like to send there.
So it's a multidimensional.
Particularly myself.
Yes.
Let's
So
learn
the
how to
concept
cook.
of food in the libraries, as remember, talk about a paradigm shift. So the concept of food in libraries is a fairly new concept. But in the right to brag, when we established the Culinary Literacy Center at Parkway Central, it was the first of its kind in this country, and we have now a lot of libraries around the nation, in particular, copying what we've done. The idea is it's multifold, but so you're getting at literacy using recipes, and recipes are nominal literacy skills, it's math skills, it's science, it's tactile learning, it's connected, human interaction, and then there's a product at the end of it. So that's one. The other is all about nutrition and the importance of eating right and portion size and all of that sort of stuff. The third piece of it is to your point, is that it's cultural literacy as well. So in part of as we develop the program around cultural literacy, we have a program called The Edible Alphabet, and it has twofold. One is it's getting at new Americans who aren't so comfortable with the English language to come to English language literacies using the recipes of their culture. And so part of that, this is the essence of the Culinary Literacy Center. But if you recall, a couple of years ago when we were looking for a catering opportunity at the top floor, when we renovated the top floor of Parkway Central, City Council approved our ability to have a catering program there, but the deal was that we had to be able to take some of what we have at Parkway Central and push it out into the neighborhood libraries. And so what you walked into was the effect of the income that comes in from that program being able to support neighborhood library programming using culinary literacy as the sort of anchor.
Okay, it was quite impressive. Okay, thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Mr. President, I can testify about the cultural literacy of this unique catering program as I've participated there at the main library with a number of the chefs up there, and it is extraordinary and quite innovative. For this round, I would like to speak about the Knight Foundation grant and the Read by Four program, and first say thank you to Janine Bagoni, who has been intimately involved with an initiative we're planning with the Philadelphia School District around how we take literacy into non-traditional communities. So if we could invite Jenny Bagoni up, and she can just update us on where you all are with Read by Four. I'm curious to know how long or how many years that grant is, and what are you doing with regards to tracking if the goal is to read by four?
So let me begin, and then Jenny can take over. So the Read by Fourth is a campaign, and at the moment it is designated as a 6-year campaign, or until all children in the school in the city of Philadelphia are reading on grade level by the time they finish 3rd grade. So there are multiple funders toward this, and so, you know, among the city of Philadelphia, as well as a myriad of private funders have come to the table to support the program. So Jenny, why don't you take over?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Yes, we are quite lucky. I'm Jenny Bagoni for the Free Library of Philadelphia Read by Fourth campaign. We are quite lucky to have a portfolio of local funders who fund us at about a total of $1 million, $1.2 million annually. That allows us to coordinate the work of now 106 partner organizations. They range from small grassroots nonprofits in different neighborhoods to large systems such as the Free Library or the school district or DHS and their out-of-school time network. Those partners are working together on 4 main kind of interim outcomes: increasing school readiness. So we want the 0 to 5-year-old children to have the right experiences before they hit kindergarten to be ready to learn. Improving attendance in the early grades. We have very severe issues with attendance in kindergarten and 1st grade when the foundations of literacy are being taught, so we need to address that. Then working on out-of-school time and summer learning so that we can avoid summer slide for students and keep students where they're at. And lastly, to improve the quality of instruction inside the classroom to make sure that classes have the right books, that teachers are prepared to teach reading, and that the schools schools and communities can work together to help parents as first teachers as well. We do all of that with our partners based on the core value that families' love for their children is the most underutilized resource in our community, and that we are not going to be able to program our way out of our literacy crisis. While we need to have high-quality programs all around the city, we also need to address this like a public health problem, and we need to do communications work to change habits in neighborhoods and communities. And the work that we are partnering with you on is around that. I really believe, getting barbershops and our hairstylists to change the conversation locally. So the budget of a roughly $1.2 million annually supports communications work that all of our partners can benefit from, as well as the convening of partners and evaluation work. We are tracking outcomes in those 4 areas of school readiness and attendance, and summer loss, learning loss, and 3rd grade reading levels. We also track a number of outputs around books distributed, home libraries created, tutors recruited, trainings for parents on active reading, a whole number of things. We have a dashboard on our website, and I can forward the link to your staff.
So you're able to provide interim status on how well young people are progressing with the Read by 4?
So we track the 3rd grade PSSA scores as our outcome, which we get annually.
Okay.
District is our partner at the table, and they are able to share with us some interim data on 1st and 2nd grade reading levels and changes in reading skills that they break down by phonics and fluency. They have a lot of data. Not all of that is part of our public dashboard, but it is part of our discussion amongst the partners on where we need to focus our efforts.
So what year is this of the 6-year initiative?
We are completing our 3rd year right now.
Okay. All right. For the time that's left, the DHS Connect, speak to that. The Department of Human Services, you said
our connection with them?
Yes.
So as I'm sure you know, DHS funds a large out-of-school time network of providers in the city, and one of the things that they did early on in the Read by 4th campaign is say that they wanted that network of providers, where those providers were serving kindergarten through 4th grade students, to have a focus on early literacy. So they pivoted the use of their funds in that space to really encourage more literacy activities in the out-of-school time as well. And so we've been working really closely with them to figure out what are the appropriate activities in out-of-school time that would support literacy when it's not a space with certified teachers, and we don't want it to replicate classrooms. We want it to be joyful out-of-school time. So we've been working with some national consultants and the provider network to refine that work, and they've been great partners.
Okay, the last question is, just for the record, state what the bottom line cost is to set up a Read by 4 initiative in a barbershop at 52nd and Market Street.
I would say it's about $750 to do it well. That would have a bookshelf stocked with books. It would have some branded materials, some giveaways for families, training for the staff.
Okay.
Like that.
So now let's move to board composition. We know that when you first arrived, you were very honest and forthcoming about stating that the board was not diverse and did not look like Philadelphia, and that it would take a minute. So give us an update on where you are with your board composition.
Sure, and Pam will join me. I'm super proud of this now. We're nearly 60% people of color now, person on the board of trustees of the Free Library of Philadelphia, and it's been a lot of collaborative work with the board. Do you want to talk a little bit about it, Pam?
Yes, we have become very mindful as we are looking to bring new people onto the board. As with any board where you need people who are going to be workers and not just putting something on their resume, you look for people with skills in areas relevant to what we're doing, and we've really, I think, developed some good pipelines to make that a much more diverse operation.
Are most of them
so in
Philadelphia
addition
residents?
to the, pardon?
Philadelphia residents?
Every one of them is a Philadelphia resident.
Okay.
And so, or within the surrounding counties.
Sure.
So the way the Board of Trustees is arranged is either the city of Philadelphia or the surrounding counties, Pennsylvania counties, right?
Okay.
So, but the other piece of it, in addition to, is the businesses or how people make their living is coming to the board. We have authors, and we have publishers, and we have business owners, and we have independent people who have their own independent businesses, and lawyers, and it's just a really interesting, diverse group of people that now person the board. And with that is the thinking around the kind of programming and the kind of participation that they have within the organization and in those communities, in their home communities as well.
How long have you been here now?
It'll be 10 years in September. Can you believe it?
So it took 10 years to sort of shift the paradigm in terms of being intentional about diversity?
Probably, we've been in a pretty good position. Probably eight or nine. Yes, close enough. It's. I would say 8 years it took me to do that. It took us to do this. It wasn't me.
Thank you, Mr. President. That's for my first round. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Don.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning.
Good morning.
First of all, you're doing a great job. I've been to the library, several different libraries, and they're all great. And I especially like the culinary class where you teach like third graders, I think it is. Because I know I've sponsored some kids to take those cooking classes, and it's pretty amazing. I also want to commend you on your budget. We're viewing everyone's budgets, and it looks like your increases are like 1% in that range. So you've kept it in line, which is great.
Right.
I wonder if you could just share with us the Read by 4 program, if you think you're on track with the goals you've set and where we stand today on the Read by 4.
So I'm going to bring Jenny back up because one of the things about Read by 4 is that it is a campaign, and it is the giant partnership that's being established. And I will say one of the things with the campaign that we have here in Philadelphia. First of all, it's we're the only library system that in the country that is the backbone for this campaign, campaign for grade level reading. And it's probably one of the more unique partnerships and activities, particularly because we have 4 very concise area of focus. And I want to have Jenny talk about how it is she feels about the success.
Sure. Thank you for the question. I do think we are on track. We are just beginning to see changes in the outcomes, which I think is appropriate when you're doing this type of work and you're trying to shift the needle on an issue that has been intractable. You don't really expect to see things shift in the first 2 or 3 years, and the fact that we are beginning to see movement, I think means we have the right strategies in place. The effort that we are doing, it falls in the framework called collective impact, which is a method of approaching these large-scale issues with a group of partners. There's research out there now that shows that when communities do collective impact well, over a period of 10 years, they can begin to seriously impact an issue like this, but it tends to take 10 to 15 years. So I think it is possible if the partners and the investors in Philadelphia have the stick-to-itiveness that our campaign will be extended to probably about 10 years. It is supposed to be a campaign with a sunset. This is not supposed to be a permanent program. But I think we have the right strategies and we're moving in the right direction, and that is witnessed by the fact that at the national level we are winning Pacesetter awards. The national effort has decided to bring their national conference here this summer to look at our work. And so it's early stages, but yes.
So right now, where do we stand percentage-wise compared to maybe a few years ago when the program started, and what do we hope to achieve? What's the goal of the program?
So our vision is all children reading on grade level by 4th grade, and that's really our organizing principle. And we set a very lofty goal of getting to approximately 80% of our children reading on grade level 6 years out, which frankly will be nearly impossible to reach. We are currently at 41.9%, let's say 42% of our 3rd graders reading on grade level. That includes the charters and the parochial schools as well. That is up about 5 percentage points from where we began.
Well, that's good.
It is good.
It's very good.
It's a good change in a few years.
And so and the other question I have is there, not so much to Read by 4, but on the returning citizens, you mentioned in your testimony that you're doing work with returning citizens. Mm-hmm. Is there an opportunity, because I visited the prisons on December 28th, I spent 6 hours visiting the prisons, and is there an opportunity to expand our ability to help people coming back into society with more job skills, job training through the library, going to the prisons and giving them more opportunities? Because you have so many things going on in your libraries. Could we bring that to the prison?
Yes. So I'm going to introduce Andrew Zirkin, who is the Deputy Director for, what do we call you now? Civic and Community Engagement. And our work with the prison systems is now under Andrew's responsibility in the Center for Public Life. We've had, over the past couple of years, an emerging prisons program through really the push of one of our librarians whose affinity is to push this idea. So Andrew, why don't you have to introduce yourself too, okay?
My name is Andrew Nurkin for the Free Library of Philadelphia. So as we think about our programs that interact with the prisons and folks who are currently incarcerated or returning citizens, we're growing that across a couple of different ways. For returning citizens specifically, this year we will issue temporary library cards to every person who is released from a Philadelphia Department of Prisons facility. They can be picked up at RISE as part of their reentry services package. Our goal there is really to bring people into the library specifically for, as you mentioned, job training, literacy classes, other services, potentially even cooking classes, but really to expose them to the suite of services and programs that the library offers as an anchor back into community and a pathway back onto their feet after returning from a period of incarceration. We do hope to grow those programs in the coming years. One example might be our Pascoville Partnership, which is another collective impact project we've been working on in the Pascoville Library. They have done a job readiness fair for returning citizens specifically that includes resume help, interview skills training, how to navigate job boards, and additional skills like that. In terms of services for folks who are currently incarcerated, one of our biggest programs has been Stories Alive, which is an opportunity for an incarcerated parent to read via video link with a non-incarcerated parent and a child. They each get the same book, they read to each other, and it develops family literacy. We know that one of the leading causes of recidivism is the loss of family and community bonds during incarceration. So we hope that begins to rebuild those bonds and maintain them during the incarceration.
One of the prisons I went to, by the way, had a whole library in the front entry area of books, which I thought was impressed with. But the other comment I just want to make is that if you came back to us with a program that said, you know what, we think we can train 100 or 200 or 250 people and get them jobs into society and it's going to cost X, I think we'd have the appetite to do that. Because the cost of keeping them in prison right now is over $60,000 per person. So the investment we make in getting them out of prison, getting them into society, is well worth it. I mean, it changes their lives. And I would be 100% in favor of investing whatever we have to do.
Thank you.
That might be something where it would be fruitful for us to partner with the Public Defender's Office.
That's fine. I'm just saying, whatever if you can come back to us with a program that says 200, 300, 500, whatever it is, I don't think the cost will not be an issue, in my opinion.
Thank you very much. We agree that it's cost effective for sure.
Let me ask one last question. I noticed in today's Inquirer there's an editorial written by Dr. Haidt and Michael D. Bernardinas, our managing director. And I think it was about Philly reading coaches or something, or having volunteers, which is a great idea in schools, helping kids read. Is there any coordination with that program with the Free Library?
So, you're good? Oh, you're here. Okay, hi, Jen. Okay.
I'm your shadow today.
We're hiding her under the desk now. Pop her up.
Yes, Philly Reading Coaches is the MDO's partnership project with Read by Fourth.
Okay,
so
great.
we are helping to coordinate the recruitment of volunteers to be those reading coaches, and we were part of the coalition of partners that did the research to identify which program nationally we wanted to replicate locally.
I thought it was great because they're asking for volunteers in Philadelphia to come in and help read with kids, which I think is great. So the more we can promote that, the better.
Yeah, we'd really like to grow that program significantly.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you all for your testimony, and most important, congratulations for being grandmothers.
Thank you.
All right, I think it's interesting, having a conversation about reading. Of course, with the library, that is probably one of the best things that I was able to do with my children growing up, is read to them every single night.
That's right.
All right, and of course, I may have, most of the time I see my kids, with their eyes, closed, right? So I wake them up, and then we would read, whether they knew how to read, and when they learned how to read, I made them read, and it's really, I think, the model, all right, that has been proven evidence-based, positive for years and years. You know, early read by 4, pre-K and all, I think is critical, and all the partners that the library has is critical. You know, over the last couple of years, I got to know the library a little more in depth than I've had in the past, and that's not, you know, just including, you know, when I was younger, you get the card, you go in, you get a book, you roll, and you get out of here. You know, I am one of the recipients of the 21st Century Library in Taccone, but in addition to that, all the programs that I discovered that you do, and all the outreach, and all of the private sector partners that you have to help the program successful, all of the things that you do with your friends groups that, you know, I'm always invited to read at a library. I'm always invited to participate in some sort of program for children and for seniors. My mother goes to the library all the time, and a lot of times she goes to go on the computer, right, and have that as an opportunity. Right, so you are essentially bridging the digital divide, you know, and you know you are, right, and you're doing that, and having the DRS. Is that a direct employee, the DRS program, or is that somebody from the private sector, one of the service providers that are helping?
These are city employees, full-time.
They're city employees, and that's a commitment.
Yes.
That the library's made,
yes.
Right, and that the city has made. So, you know, I wanted to make.
It was actually a promotional position from our library assistant. You can, you know, you have to promote through to a DRS position, you know, and test in. Yeah.
Well, you know, the library is essential. And I've discovered so essential in every neighborhood. I mean, Council President, you were around back then. I mean, I was not in the elected position, but when, you know, we were fighting over the closure of the libraries, I mean, how ridiculous was that? I mean, that was crazy, all right, for the rate of return, all right, and investments in our community. I mean, I have an entire community that was built progressively upon having, you know, people work, play, eat and sleep in one neighborhood, and that included, you know, a place to work, you know, shelter, a library, one of the oldest libraries in the city of Philadelphia, and our parks and recreation system, all available for the communities, and that is not just our children. All right, I mean, it starts with our children, right, and it will always start with our children, all right, but it is for everybody. My libraries are filled with people day and night. So, you know, in addition to just, you know, asking, you know, how you continue to solicit private sector partners, all right, to supplement some of your services, you know, it's just my pleasure to work with the library, and most of all right, we don't know unless we ask. So I want to let every council member know that unless you ask the library, all right, to be a partner with something, you know, they're busy doing things for everybody in the community and our kids and the many programs. All right, they have been so open for conversation and willingness. I mean, we displayed the first time in Northeast Philadelphia the AIDS quilt, all right, which we were so proud of, where we, you know, are having, you know, SBA, small business, you know, learning centers and digital literacy groups that's happened in the library. I'm having tonight, for example, I'm having well, there's 3 things that are happening at one time, you know, in the community, all right, but my commercial quarter, I'm having city services happy hour. You know, and I don't mean happy hour in the sense of like a margarita, all right, just it's after work, all right, the library, all right, is graciously being a host for me, bringing Revenue, L&I, Streets Department, Commerce, my office together, all right, for small businesses that are help support the people in the community that utilize the library. So, you know, if you don't know and you don't ask, you know, thou shalt not receive, all right, is how I would say, and I don't mean to be arrogant about it, all right, but I want to say that your team, your crew, at all levels, and its diversity that I've experienced in every neighborhood has been fantastic. So that is really more of a complimentary kind of statements in my time, because to me it's, the last couple of years has been a little bit of a pleasant discovery, right, on how awesome you are. But can you explain how you solicit, your private sector, support and interaction, to keep them engaged with, Read by 4, and some of the other partners, because it's leveraging resources, right, that maybe we just can't provide. So I think it's a good model. So that's all I have for my time.
Thank you. So do you want me to explain how it is we work on the private sector side? Sure. So the significance of our organization is the fact that we're hyper-local and can get at local communities, but the other piece of it is that we have the benefit of a foundation, and all of that cultivation, whether it's through individuals, corporations, foundations, who get the mission of the Free Library. So...
Great, thank you.
So.
All right. I don't want to go overboard. It'll be
it'll
be a little too much. It would go beyond complimentary. Our chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you. I was going to say, you don't get a new clock because you're chair now. Thank you, folks. Real quick, I have a couple of things. I also want to thank the library system, in particular the role that the librarians have played, whether it's at Feltonville with some of our community issues, to McPherson with the opioid issue, at Marrero with the Puerto Rico issue. I really appreciate that work that's being done. That's not what they signed up for, but I appreciate the fact that they see that as part of their responsibility in the community, and it doesn't go unnoticed. So I want to thank you with that, and I look forward to our McPherson work, right?
Yes, yes, indeed.
It's going to be very exciting. Want to talk to you a little bit around your diversity numbers. Sure. And what, obviously they're low. What, if anything, you're doing, and how can we be more helpful in ensuring that your executive team and within your ranks you have more diversity?
So as like how we worked with the board, it's going to take time. But we are looking to, as positions vacate when we put out a job description. But we do have a very significant diversity and inclusion policy that was approved by the Board of Trustees and submitted to the city a couple of months ago. And so...
so do you have bilingual positions that embrace...
Yes, we do. Oh, for sure. We have them. We have staff that speak an array of 130 different languages, and so when we have a constituent comes in that speaks a language that's not at that local library, there's a call list, and we will connect that constituent with the staff member that speaks that.
So we want the language, we also want the cultural piece of it, right? So
yes,
I'm interested around how we get there, because, as we invest more in the library system, and the library systems are community institutions, I'd like to see that more reflective again. I want to know what the limitations are, right? How could we be helpful, and we can have a whole HR, the situation.
And one of the things that's been important about the work that we've done over the last couple of years, and you're seeing it come to real fruition, is the understanding of the need for the position of a community organizer to really get at that, what's happening in the community. Our librarians do a good job of it, but it's that getting away from that building that's always tough when you have a limited number of staff members. So the community organizers have been a group of folks that have really been sort of working so deeply and so tight with community, and also working with our staff to make sure that they're out in the community as well. So it's been a dynamic, really.
So we and I appreciate the fact that there's some performance goals and stuff. I like to see that more infused in part of your measurements, and I don't want to get into the details of the performance-based budgeting situation, because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be, and so I don't want to hold you to a different standard that I'm holding the administration. Performance-based budgeting is around vision, mission, operating goals, efficiencies, and reinvestments, and that's not where we're at. So I don't want to, but I just want you to know that that's a work in progress. And I appreciate some of the goals that you infused here, but I didn't see some of the diversity stuff in there. And then lastly, in 2016, we started talking about the Municipal Id. We reintroduced the bill, and I was very grateful that the library from the very beginning saw its value. And I see that you continue to figure out how you get more library cards in people's hands. The administration is committed to it. They put out an RFP. There's money in the budget. Can you, I'm a little concerned because post-Trump, the conversation has changed. And the only way we're going to make the Municipal ID program work if it is a robust pride program and one around accessibility for not only the undocumented community but underserved communities, as you've highlighted, the prison population. We find that battle in the opioid addiction where we still have this barrier of identification. How is the library system still very committed to that? And how do you see it being an asset, as you anchor, the cultural piece and the connectivity for people?
So it's so fascinating you're bringing this up, because we had at our executive team yesterday had an elaborate conversation around our library card and access points, particularly when our focus was particularly the school children, and how it is we, and of course the way we segment our services, and do we need to really segment our services, or can we have a ubiquitous card that allows for anybody to come in, and the fact that there was a municipal card that could be your school ID, that could be your bus transportation, that could be your library card. It takes care of so many issues for us. I mean, but the concern, though, just to level the concern, would be we're so conscious of First Amendment privacy rights, and so built into having the municipal card would be that piece of out where we live and work as a profession on protecting First Amendment privacy rights. And so we are all in with feet and toes and hands and fingers, but just know that as part of the dynamic around that is the privacy issue.
Yeah, no, and again, in this world, we all want to protect people, and I think the best way to protect people is when the more people are engaged, right? So it doesn't become this constituency. It's like, this is a Philadelphian card that people need just to walk into their city hall, that kind of thing, for public safety and all the other issues. But again, the connectivity, and I think now that we consider ourselves the city of champions, the issue of having pride and having your Philly card, whatever we call it, is hugely important. So I just appreciate that and want to keep you folks engaged. I know we're going to have a hearing soon.
We're absolutely there.
And its implementation, but its ability to work.
Well, it's the other piece of it, just so that, and when you think about it, I've seen it just from a library perspective, how well it can work when you use it at its best. So the model comes from the Chicago Public Library in their U Media Center, which is their center focused on teenagers, and how that school library card and that library, how the school card and the library card mixed well together for those young the constituents to come in. They literally swipe in, and the library staff is able to watch the progress, the sort of capacity progress of that individual to say, really spend some more time in technology, spend some more time in the maker space. Don't just sit here hanging out, although hanging out is a healthy thing as well. So how do we keep moving and building the capacity of young people, because we're able to sort of track their progress through their use of the.
And then lastly, how do you see us strengthening the library public system relationship with the schools in light of some of the budget challenges, the library closures in the school? What are we doing that's working, and what do we need to do to expand that? As the school district comes in and asks us for major investment, we don't want to lose sight of that connectivity. What is it that we could be doing better?
So I think what's going to be important there is that nobody sort of disassemble the fact that the public library system here is a piece of the education continuum in the city, and that you really shouldn't see them as separate parts, but as part of a part of a continuum of education resources, and particularly in the out-of-school time. So there's the piece of the day where the children are in school, and then there's the other, all that other time, they're in a public library or in other resources around the city, and that, and to have a flow of services and sort of programs that match where the city, where the school district wants to go in their goal sets, having Read by Fourth as that sort of opportunity space that says, okay, here's where, all of the partners are going to contribute to the process. And then, how do we understand that, these children, and the way I love to do it and think about our clusters is, how do you create that hyper-local undergirding in community so that our children and their families are going from place to place and knowing that this is where the card comes in gorgeously. But it's also how it is that the services actually reflect one another, and we're not competing with each other, but that we're actually complementing where each other are. That's the best way
and I know
can
this is
explain
an issue of the adults, right? Because it's not the kids. I went to Roberto Clemente's school. We had a principal that actually bused us to our nearest library, which is the Alney branch, and we did that once a week, and it was a natural part of what happened in the week. And, in your case, we have schools nearby, right? And I know in some cases we have that where teachers appreciate the space and bring the kids, but that doesn't happen, it's not across the board. So I think we really, the adults need to figure this out, that connectivity. If we're going to make substantial investments into the public system, right, into the public library system, that connectivity has to be there and better infused. And I just, to the extent that we could be more helpful in that and drawing that message to Dr. Haidt, this issue of buildings being different and not breaking down those barriers is complicated, because this is an adult issue.
It is very much an adult issue, and that's why, the whole concept behind the community schools is sort of where we began with our cluster work, and our cluster work is really about how our cluster leaders become, and our libraries become that sort of community anchor to bring everybody together to have that adult conversation around
and
the
not
health
use
of
the excuse about the kids have to walk 2 blocks and they have to cross the street and we need permissions. I mean, really, can we get through that? Well, if we want to find a barrier, if we want to find an answer, to sort of a no, we're going to find a no. But it's the opportunity to really push to yes, and I think that's harder, but more. The solutions are there. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you very much. I too would like to thank you for the fine work that you do in our whole library system. And thought I'd like to bring up, as I have in the past, where we are with our George's Library at 63rd and Lancaster.
So we have, so it is my hope that Rebuild gets us to our George, right? And that, so that George Institute, I have to see where it is in the Rebuild initiative. But that's one of the, but that would, in addition to Rebuild, we would have to raise private money. So we have the thinking around what would absolutely happen at that facility. And so it's more about how it is we bring adult literacy and a digital learning center and a culinary literacy center within that facility. So we already have it sort of designed, sort of mentally designed. It's now getting the funding to make that happen. So, but that would be, we would look to probably level the building that's there and maybe to keep a frame, but we really would build a brand new building that allows for this, which actually allows for cheaper construction costs when you do a new build versus a restoration.
Will you stay in touch? Keep
I will,
informed?
yes. I'll bring you pretty pictures and then,
Thank you.
Yes.
We'll take them. Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple other questions that I would ask. I recently read, I think it was today actually, that Philadelphia's competitive edge in the war for talent in the country. We're now number 3 for attracting talent, which is pretty amazing. And we actually outpaced Boston, Portland, Seattle, and San Jose.
Well, they don't have a very good football team.
That's true. That's true. But so we're doing well in that area. But one of my concerns is, like in the Read by 4 program, there are 3 specific areas. I'm wondering if you cover this in Read by 4. This is for like kindergarten and up. Financial literacy, entrepreneurship, coding and teaching technology. Is that part of the Read by 4? Are the books geared toward those subjects? I mean, is there any way the library can play a role, or maybe you're already doing that also?
So I'll have Jenny come back up, but the predominance of what you're speaking of is actually the work that's happening in our libraries as the work of librarians, particularly financial literacy. And we actually do have a coding program going on, but that's through private resources that we've been able to push, and actually a collaboration with one of the banks. I'm trying to remember which one. But it really is the work above. So Read by 4 takes us, and our focus is really about getting children to read on grade level by 3rd grade. The work that we're doing here, and we are doing coding with children, but it's all about the other stuff, is really the day-to-day work of our librarians occurring throughout. And so, and depending upon where you are in the city is where we'll focus on financial literacy. So if a neighborhood librarian really feels that the constituent that's rising, that'll be a program that librarian will look to bring into that particular location. So
we're actually teaching through the library financial literacy for K through 4?
I want to say yes, but do we? K through 4? Yes.
Yes.
So Chris
That's
says
great.
yes, and I'll
That's
have
great.
Chris. Do you want to talk about it, Chris? Come on up. You have to introduce yourself, Chris.
Hello, I'm Christine Caputo, Chief of Youth Services for the Free Library. We did our after-school program. We have an introductory financial literacy program for elementary school students that allows students to use their burgeoning math skills to understand the larger scope of what the math is for. So while it's not using a checkbook or a bank account, it is sort of introductory framework for financial literacy.
That's great. Is that from kindergarten and up?
Yes, kindergarten to about 8th or 9th grade.
And I don't know if it's in your area, but I was at a public school in the Northeast, it might have been Councilman Heenan's district, where the kindergarten teacher actually had what I call a codapillar, where they're teaching kindergarten kids how to code, which was pretty amazing. So I'm just wondering if we're doing that in the library system.
We are. We just actually got some kits to use the codapillars and the bees and bots and some of the other simple coding systems that we'll be rolling out this summer.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. What's a codapillar?
Ask a 5-year-old.
I'm joking. I just have a question, and I'll ask colleagues if they have any other follow-ups, because we are, so proud of our library system and all its components and its partners in every neighborhood. Do you have internet access to help bridge the divide in every library? Because I know now, we have the service at least to the point of service at every public facility, which I think includes the libraries. But what do you do with it from there?
So
I know what my district does, but it'd be nice to also hear what other districts, what's happening in other districts as well.
So let me introduce John Meyer, who is our Deputy Director for IT and Digital Strategies, and he can tell you not only do we have internet access, but we have really fast internet access.
Yes, I'm John Meyer, the Deputy Director of IT for the Free Library. We, as of July 1 last year, have been upgrading all of the capacity for each of the branches.
So you have fiber to every branch?
So that the connectivity speeds have gone from 100 meg capacity per branch up to 1 gig. And then the central locations will move to 2 gig capacity all the way to 20 gig outbound.
Really good.
So, obviously you're seeing substantial increase, which will then allow more of the programmatic activity that relies on, obviously, the internet to be able to perform at the need or at the level that it needs to perform.
Right. So having said that, does every library or most of the libraries, are they essentially a key spot for the communities? So they have computers, that utilizes the enterprise speed that it's
Actually,
pretty
I
quick.
think that I know I'm bragging, but I know we're faster than key spots because we have the benefit of federal E-rate funding that comes to schools and libraries, and so we have the We get federal
You get
funding.
reimbursement, right?
Pardon?
So you get reimbursed, that's what the...
Yes, correct.
Correct.
And so, and the thing that we also have in each of our, as I mentioned, was our digital resource specialists, which help support people in their utilization and use of the internet. But also it's some of the enterprise, what we call the enterprise stuff, and being able to really push out digital strategies. And so each of our neighborhood libraries has constant contact in order to be able to push out neighborhood programming, so their constituents who sign up with an email address, and we allow anybody that comes in to sign up. You get an email address, and so if you're brand new to the United States, particularly the work that's being done at Lilia Marrero, for instance, a lot of refugees from Puerto Rico are in the Lilia Marrero catchment area and have been coming into the library, signing on for an email address and being able to communicate with their friends and family back in Puerto Rico. I mean, that's just a sort of an opportunity that we put out there for people who are refugees and new to the United States as a...
That's great, and I wish and I hope, moving forward that you would promote that a little bit more, about bridging the digital divide, taking things in your own, things that you can control, right, and offer yourself through, additional programs and partners like Career Links and, giving people the opportunity to go online, right, not as a luxury, but as a necessity as they look for employment or they want to keep in touch with folks they've been separated for, because, we are a pretty awesome city, and we try to treat people as fair as we possibly can and give them the resources.
So Councilman, there's also, Andrew mentioned before, our work being done at our Pascal Library, which is a collective impact where we have a number of local community organizations. CareerLink is one of them, to bring together people to help move people to employment in an area of high unemployment. And we use our digital capacity in that way to make sure that folks are getting online, they understand how to use a computer, they apply for jobs, and they understand, and they get the right technology support so that they're very comfortable.
Now, how many neighborhood libraries do you have?
So there are 49 neighborhood libraries, 3 regional libraries, which are larger, Parkway Central, which is our central library, the Rosenbach Museum and Library, which is our rare book and museum library, and then we have 4 hotspots, which are local community-based organizations, where we put technology training into community-based organizations, and one of those hotspots is actually out at the airport as well. So we have 60 locations around the city.
Okay, great. And hopefully, we can continue to promote, folks to stop by and utilize the programs.
That's right.
So thank you. Any other members have any other questions? Well, we appreciate your testimony today, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you. Thanks for all you do.
Chair does recognize
Forgive me,
Councilwoman.
I was conferring with a colleague. I did have 2 more questions.
Yep.
Okay. First, I want to underscore, put in bold letters, underscore 3 times with exclamation points, the value and importance of diversity at all up and down the table of organization. And just as you have been intentional in moving to a board that looks like Philadelphia, it's imperative that when young people, black and brown young people, come into the libraries, that they see people who look like them. Because if they can't see it, they can't believe that they too can aspire to that type of opportunity. And so we'll look to hear, in the next couple of years, what strategic pathways you've taken to change that paradigm. And to underscore Councilwoman Sanchez's concern, it is consistent across city departments that there are too many that are not intentional in making sure that professionals from the Latino community are a part of the mix of that particular department. And so I need to punctuate that point, because it really matters to us that we have a government across departments that look like Philadelphia.
Councilwoman, can I just point out to you that when we did the 21st Century Libraries, the renovation of the 4 most recent ones, we were very intentional about the hiring for the people to do that work, and the participation rate of minorities and women-owned enterprises was almost 64%. So we are on it. We are taking it very seriously.
Okay. But we need that on the staff side as well. Okay? Speak to, when reading budget testimony, I try to pay particular attention to how well departments are doing especially when you're doing renovations in the area of energy conservation, environment, sustainability, all those that fall under that umbrella of trying to grow a greener city. So just elaborate for a bit on how that has been a factor in your reopening of the 4 neighborhood libraries and the renovations.
Right, so we have been working with PICO in particular, as well as the city's Office of Sustainability, to make sure that our systems are energy efficient, and even in the catching the water, particularly in the libraries where we have larger land area like the Lovett Library, we've been working with the water department to ensure that we have the right systems in order to recapture water. So, so PICO was all. I'm just trying to find the conversation around PICO, in which they worked with us to ensure that the energy efficiency of all 5 of the buildings that have been renovated are going to where we're actually giving back energy to the city into the bucket there. And I'm not using the right terminology, but I know that our buildings, these 5 buildings in particular, are inordinately energy efficient. But we're working with the rest of the libraries as well, going library by library, working with the city's Office of Sustainability to ensure that at least the lighting systems and the energy systems are upgraded to a point where they're inordinately energy efficient buildings. Okay. And I think we need to, I was speaking offline with your staff about what really is a celebratory moment, that you found a general contractor who was intentional about making sure that those working in those renovations were meeting goals. Oh my gosh, yes. So I think we need to, go ahead. Yeah, that was a company by the name of Intech, was our construction manager for the 4 neighborhood libraries that were renovated. That is a truly superior firm to work with on just about every level. They were intentional about who gets hired and where they're hired and the trades that they're in, but they really cared about the quality of the building product, the construction materials. They were really careful around engaging the community engagement of that firm was really, I thought, exceptional.
Made a difference.
It really did, and hired local people to be able to support any concern in the local community. But the other piece of it is where there were issues around property lines, old trees and how we would move old trees so we weren't killing, the sort of the aging infrastructure in that area. It was key for them.
Well, it's not often that we hear of general contractors that have figured out what too many members of council ask ad nauseum during budget hearings, and I'm sure that's music to Councilwoman Jenny Blackwell's ears, given all of what's happening in West Philadelphia. And maybe we can have Intech come in and share with council members how they were able to do that in a way where you exceeded your goals because of being intentional, and that it really is doable if you have leadership that philosophically gets it.
Right. And I'm sure Craig Sabatino would be, he's the CEO, would be happy to do it.
We'll certainly follow up on that.
He worked hard, he did. His whole team worked really wonderfully well.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Any other questions from other members? That being none, thank you so much for your testimony and your service.
Thank you.